is a discussion on a RAISE grant, RAISE being Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. There's been some discussion and lately about that particular grant, and I know several people are advocating for the city applying for that grant. So this discussion is really, I guess, between, Russ and Bill. Will kind of talk about the grant itself, and then council basically can, based on that and other things, can decide if it's something that it wants to move forward with. So Russ, you want to start?
Yes, absolutely. The RAISE grant is not a new grant. It is a continuation of what used to be called the Tiger grants. And then after Tiger ran its course, it changed to Build grant. And now they've renamed it. And it's basically the same grant program, but renamed to RAISE, which is the acronym for Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. We sent out a piece of information for City Council to review regarding a summary of the application requirements and what's involved with this type of grant, and also some information regarding grants that were awarded in the St. Louis metropolitan area through RAISE and, well, through the predecessor programs to RAISE, Build and Tiger. These grants are typically for large-scale projects, and you compete nationally, not locally. So it's not like the East-West Gateway where we're competing with cities around the St. Louis area for a certain amount of funding that's available overall. This is more of a national type program. It doesn't run through East-West Gateway at all. It's its own structure. And typically larger funding entities get involved here than what you would see submitting through East-West Gateway. This type of grant is typically applied for by MoDOT, by state, just about, City of St. Louis would certainly get involved, and they've been awarded one previously. And I think that in your information that we supplied, we identified the Jefferson Corridor enhancement grant that City of St. Louis applied for and received. This was a complete streets project tied in with the the large project, the $1.9 billion, why am I drawing a blank on the name of it? It is the
NGA.
NGA, thank you. The Geospatial Administration, that's right. So that is, that's part of what allowed St. Louis to, I think, piece what was necessary together to get that grant for Jefferson Avenue. These projects typically involve a lot of planning, a lot of preliminary design work being completed prior to the grant submission in order to have a real chance of receiving the funds. We're on a tight time frame with what has been announced, that these applications need to be in by July 12th. And I think that favors those who have already had a significant amount of planning and analysis done, including environmental studies, right-of-way acquisition analysis, and so forth. It's not to say that we couldn't prepare a grant application prior to July 12th. I think that's possible. I don't know what its chances for funding are. It really depends on what all the other submittals are that are received in that time frame and in this round. What's been discussed with me, I was contacted by interested parties, citizens, council members, and so forth, regarding what might we be able to apply for. And I think that, you know, the things that that stand out that are in the works right now are the extension of Grants Trail and the train station improvements. The train station improvements is already funded with a $1.5 million federal grant, and you may not use federal money to match federal money. So that brings the question as to whether there is a way to do the RAISE grant in combination with what we've already received through the TAP grant program. We're working to get that question answered. I don't know if Bill was able to have that answered prior to now. Are you there, Bill?
I am here. I did reach out to Jason Lang today, but he was unable to give us any direction on that right now. He's not as familiar with the RAISE grant and its impacts with funding by both funding sources.
Yeah, and I can understand that. I mean, when you apply for the TAP grant, you're identifying where all the sources for that funding for the overall project are going to come from. And basically the overall project is identified as being complete with the $1.5 million TAP grant and the contributions from local entities that are outlined in the application. So I'm not sure where RAISE would fit in with that. So that's what we're trying to see, if there is a way to incorporate funds through the RAISE program. The other aspect here is RAISE has a minimum of $5 million for urban grants. So that particular project's 4.6 million as identified, but with 1.5 million of funding from the federal government, it's actually less than that needs to be funded. So I'm not sure we would meet the threshold there. The other project that's been discussed is the Grants Trail. As council's fully aware, we're in the process of bringing aboard a consultant to do a planning study and analysis and citizen engagement and right-of-way analysis and so forth to hopefully be able to identify a preferred path for the extension of Grants Trail into downtown Kirkwood. We're at the beginning stages of that. Really, that process would best be completed prior to submitting for a grant, be it RAISE or a TAP grant or any STP or CMAQ. These are all acronyms that most of you are familiar with. So, you know, that brings a little bit of a conundrum because we don't have the engineering drawings that the federal government would normally expect for this type of project. We don't have the planning done that the federal government would expect in an application. So it does puts us in a difficult position to apply and then to win the funds. I mean, we can certainly apply. I just don't know that we could succeed. And an application would probably run in the range of $25,000 to $35,000, best estimate right now, in order to apply for these funds. So I'm going to leave it at that for the introduction, and be glad to hear from Bill or Jonathan. Both have worked on this to quite a bit of an extent, and glad to hear from council as well as their thoughts.
Bill, Jonathan, do you have anything you want to add?
I think just, you know, what Russ has said, you know, I think we have, if we have a planning document, if you read through the RAISE application and things of that nature, having a planning document and community input is some of the more important points that they make in there. I think we're going right now, as we are going towards the STP grant, we're following the proper process, and that same process can be utilized next year at this time for the grant if we wanted to go there. So we're not trying to escalate it, but we'll be able to do a good grant properly, you know, vet it, and we would have at the end of the process, we plan on having hopefully a preferred route that we would then move forward with. So I think then we would have a very strong application. I think we would be making having our consultant make some pretty good, big, I don't want to say guesses, but would have to make some estimates as where our final design is going to be before we have any real public involvement. These grants are very competitive. I will say that, I've participated in one of these for an interchange, and it took, quite some time to prepare the applications. It's very extremely detailed. We did not win that application. They're building that interchange now, but it's based on grant funds from multiple sources. They were never able to get, at that time, it was considered a Tiger grant. It's they're very competitive. So, of course, we can always reach out to our consultants to see what's going on, if they can do this. I'm sure any one of them will say they will do the best they can in a short amount of time for whatever dollar amount we would like to pay for. My druthers is, I'll be honest with you, is to put together a proper planning document and then go next year after the RAISE grant for whatever portion we want to go for, if it's just the trail or the train station. The other thing is, if you take a look at our pedestrian bicycle plan, I'll throw a project out there that has been identified, and it's that railroad connection on Fillmore to get Meacham Park connected to downtown Kirkwood. I think that's a project that, it's estimated at like $2 million right now, but that's just that's a real ballpark engineering estimate that was done during that process. If we wanted to go after a grant, I would say the RAISE planning grant for that would be probably a little more, have a better opportunity, because it's just a planning grant. It's just that, where you want to plan on what we're doing. It hits a lot of the key equity points in the RAISE, bringing disadvantaged community, low vehicle ownership and things of that nature into the community. The school, the crossing and all that kind of stuff, it starts hitting a lot of those key criteria that we could use. And if we could submit for a planning grant in that time frame and get that money, that would be very strong to move forward for that project, because we've had some discussions on the Meacham Park and its connection to the rest of the community. And this is an ideal grant for that type of connection, because right now that connection is not really even on our radar. It's in our plan, but it's not on our radar. So that might be a better alternative because of some of the complications that Russ has discussed. So that's
well, and planning grants also have no minimum.
Correct.
You don't have to have a $5 million application for a planning grant.
Right. And I think in some of the research, it was at U City, they did get a planning grant at one time. So
they did.
So it's more feasible to take a look at a project that it really, again, I'm always big on, you put out a grant that hits the strong criteria that they're searching for. And I think that connection that shows in our pedestrian plan has a lot more of those criteria than the train station and Grants Trail at this time.
I would also say that typically, if you use their planning grant to get the planning study done, they tend to look more positively when you need further money down the road, because they feel that they're, what they've already approved is actually coming to fruition to some extent. And I think it would hit all the criteria that the grants are aiming for here.
Jonathan, did you have anything? Russ mentioned your name, so I thought I'd give you a chance.
I think they've covered it quite well, but I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
All right, very good. Council questions, I'll go in order. Wallace, you have anything?
No, not in the way of questions so much as I do My concern is we've been here before where we're kind of a day late and a dollar short on discovery of grants out there. And I'm wondering if it isn't in time for the council to just raise our hands and say, let's do a work session on grants, discovery of grants, application of grants, and what the city needs in order to be more timely in discovering and exploiting those grants. It appears if things come out of DC the way they're sounding here recently, there's going to be a lot more money out there and opportunities for us. But if we don't recognize them and get planning to make the application, we'll miss out. And I just hate for us to continue to miss these the way we have been.
Actually, I'd have to disagree that we haven't continued to miss anything, really. No, we haven't, because we have won grant after grant after grant due to the efforts of our public services, and they focus on grants that we have a very good chance of winning that are quite positive. I have no problem with discussing changes to how we approach grants in the future, because there are changes to those that are being offered, and infrastructure monies being released by the federal government that previously weren't available. But when someone says we're missing out on things, if you look at Webster, they've received nothing. If you look at Creve Coeur, they've received nothing beyond, they did a TAP grant way back to over 270 to redo Olive Boulevard. But I'm not aware of them receiving anything since then.
Well, Russ, I understand that, and Council Member Wirtz was very timely in giving everyone a copy of the percentages that we've increased, and that's impressive.
Yeah. My
point is, why should we be willing to leave anything on the table if there's more out there, and the only thing that's in our way is the process that we use? I just say I'm always looking for ways to get better.
Okay, yep, that's fine. I heard you say we continued missing out is what I heard. So I just wanted to say, I don't think we've missed out terribly in the past.
A couple things on that. We don't have to debate this. I think, just because someone sends an email, makes a phone call, hey, this grant's out there, we're not missing out on it. I mean, obviously, Bill and Russ are very aware of, the old Tiger grant. But Russ and I have had this conversation the last couple weeks about, how do cities track grant availability, whether it's private, federal, whatever. So we've had conversations, and we will have more. But that was a question I asked, and Russ explained, how some do it. I don't know, Russ, do you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, there are certainly tracking systems for grant availability. City of Kirkwood does not subscribe to them currently. We could certainly consider that. I think that's worthy of a discussion at a work session as more and more grants are becoming available. I think that there are mechanisms that the city currently doesn't use as well with resources. We could hire a grant writer, somebody whose entire job is dedicated to writing grants. That's a possibility if council wanted to go in that direction. We've talked about that previously, and council did not want to go in that direction at that time. So it might be the time to revisit that.
Which we can do. Let's see, Kara, anything from you?
Yeah, I have one question and one comment. These grants, right, they're 80-20 match, just like similar to the other ones, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so basically we would have to have a project where we'd at least be willing to give up 1.2 million of our own money to fund, just to hit that bare minimum, right? So right there,
yes, it would be in that range.
Yeah, so right there to me, just kind of, it almost seems to me that we're, for lack of a better analogy, we're a D2 college team about to play a Division I football team. It's a little out of our league in that we don't have the regional impact that they would be looking for any of these projects. That's just kind of what I took away from some of those grants that St. Louis had been awarded the past few years, and kind of what the criteria is for an urban grant. You know, I think some of the projects that you listed off would be perfect if we were considered rural, but we're obviously not. So that's just kind of my take. And then I also, you know, to Wallace's point, I think it is time for the council to have to build a process that we want to see. You know, we keep bringing up these grants, and we've been so hyper focused on street grants, but you know, maybe we also want to start looking at processes or a program that we want to look at. If we want to bring more revenue in from grants, let's look at, you know, public safety, recreation, you know, water system, all of the other departments we have to bring in this revenue as well. So then it also frees up more money for streets or whatever else. So I just kind of want to piggyback off Wallace's comment of maybe, you know, if this is important to council, and it would be important to me, I think, to look at our options and see what processes and policies we can put out there, whether it be hiring a grant writer or just something that would make more sense. So we are utilizing not only our staff's resources, but the consulting fees appropriately for these kinds of grant applications. So that's all I have.
Liz.
Can't the grant applications be partnered with other entities that we would then share the 20%? For example, MoDOT or Spire or MSD. You know, if we wanted to if we included the train station, we want to fix the flooding, we work with MSD in this grant to do that. Is that correct, that other entities can be
you can
involved?
certainly partner with other entities, absolutely.
Okay, so they would help pay the 20%.
If they're willing to, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think we need to be, you know, understand that piece of this, that it wouldn't necessarily all be on us if we're partnering. And I think it would be, is it a stronger application when you partner? I don't know the answer to that.
I would say typically yes.
Okay, all right. When it comes to the train station, including it, if we were to include it in a grant application, but not include any of the things that were in the other grant that we got for the train station, maybe there's things, well, like I just brought up, the flooding or adding Wi-Fi to the train station, adding charging stations at the parking lot at the train station. Those are all things that weren't included in that other grant. So they could be included in this grant?
Conceivably.
Okay, so that was something that you were concerned about. And then we were talking about, it just seems to me that in order, I guess I don't understand the planning piece of this versus the application for the grant. It seems to me that if we want to even eventually go for this grant, that we should start that now and go ahead and apply now so that we're all ahead of the game for the next time it comes around.
I'm not sure the benefit of that. I mean, I don't know we want to spend the money and not even have the plans. I mean, I think and what I've read on it is, you know, a lot of your planning and everything needs to be done ahead of time with the application. So that would be on any grant, that would be the time to do it. I don't think there's any advantage or head start on making an application when it's not complete, hoping that the next year it gives you some kind of advantage. So I got, that's my take on it, and others can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, and I wanted to ask Bill too. Bill, you brought off, I don't know, Fillmore and some kind of railroad crossing on Fillmore, and just wondering if that could tie into Grants Trail and getting Leffingwell over, you know, something over the train track there. That was Union Pacific's, you know, argument for not, or I don't know if argument's the right word, but for not wanting to give us that full right away from homes over to Leffingwell because they don't want us crossing the at grade. So could this include, you know, being able to put a bridge over?
I would say there's a yes and a no there, okay? Because the object of what the planning study we're doing are proposing right now for the Grants Trail is to get it from its trailhead down to downtown Kirkwood, okay? Now, if we put a planning grant together for the raise, that's to get people from Fillmore across the railroad tracks, okay? Now that's quite a distance between down the railroad track, okay? So it doesn't directly apply, but it becomes a feeder into Grants Trail, which is very supportive, and it shows that you're showing connectivity with your trail system, which is a very valuable asset to have, is connectivity. So you're creating that connectivity also. And going back to just a little thing is that with these planning grants, you know, not the planning grant, but when we would put in the grant, we do need to have a good cost estimate on what it's going to cost to do that. And that's where I find why we need the planning, because if we can't throw out a number that we can't support and then get the grant and find out that it's not enough money. So you have to have a good planning document that can justify the cost, the funding you're requesting.
That's
Anything
all.
else, Liz? Okay.
No, that's it.
Bob? Nothing? All right. Maggie?
I think this is for Bill. In any of these, or maybe Jonathan as well, but in any of these, the bridge at Fillmore, Grant Trail, all of those kind of plans can also be part of this, and put it also under the, or have the umbrella of Vision Zero be part of it as well and go by their tenants.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And I mean, like publicly, like Alta is a partner in that as well.
Correct. They're our consultant also.
Oh, I know, but yeah, but as our consultant.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, good. I would very much like to see that as often as we can use them and as much use their expertise. Great, thanks. That's it.
Mark?
Some of my questions are already answered. Thank you. I think hopefully we can start working on this plan and have something ready. I think we should obviously be as proactive as we can, and having a solid plan in place will certainly be a big help. So look forward to seeing that.
Obviously, one thing that's come out of this is just more of the discussion Russ and I've had about, grant awareness. How do we, keep track of all of them? I think, I think our staff knows about a lot of them, but there's private grants. There's just so many, and maybe we'll have a further, discussion on that. And even with that, I still encourage, citizens to, if they see something, just let us know about it. I mean, it doesn't, mean that we can act on it or act on it this particular year, but it's good information to have. I mean, grants, stuff that Liz mentioned, Maggie mentioned. I mean, that's the kind of thing that's fantastic, but that could be a couple of years of planning and put that into some kind of grant application. So I think it's a good discussion. I don't think anybody wants to not pursue a potential grants that we could give. We also don't want to be use the term loosely foolish and just apply for a grant that the chances of anybody getting are relatively slim. I think, what was it, about 7, and please don't quote me, I know people will quote, very few, under 10% of grant applications are approved. So it's a hard grant to begin with anyway, so you want to make sure you're your application is as good as it can be. So, do we have anything further on this at this point from anybody? All right, and I think with that, Russ, I don't think the council's going to ask staff to have you apply for the 2021 raise grant. So, all right, thank you, everyone. Next item is discussion on the Geyer and Monroe rail crossing. I know Bill sent us out a memo on that.
And let me just ask one thing, Mayor, if I could. Just back to the raise grant. We had suggested perhaps a planning grant. Does council not have interest in that particular planning grant?
For this year, I thought you were talking about for next year.
It could be this year, it could be next year. Bill, what were you thinking?
I was thinking that the possibility is I would reach out to 2 consultants that we'll have under contract.
Yeah.
And talk to them, because the planning grant is not as the detailed level as a raise, the full raise grant. And I was going to look at them, and if it's the council's direction, we can do that and come back within the next week and probably have a better direction from our onboard consultants about that. I mean, I preferably, if we're going to spend money and we're going to try and get one, it would be the planning grant I would go for the South Fillmore crossing.
Oh, okay, well then I misunderstood.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't think anybody would have any issue with you talking to, consultants.
Okay. All right, because
Go for it.
that's what staff would recommend, is we further the possibility of a planning grant for this application cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking, Russ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of it for the train station and Grants Trail we've talked about. But the planning grant, I mean, that's get information on that and let us know.
Okay.
Is that good enough direction at this point?
Yes, I think we can work with that. No problem.
Okay, thanks for correcting that, Russ.
No problem.
All right. Dyer Road, Monroe Place Railroad crossing. Russ, Bill?
Well, I'll just let Bill take this one. He's been working diligently on it.
Okay. Well, several months ago, I gave you a verbal report on it. This time I put it in writing. Okay. Basically, we've been after the railroad to get us a cost estimate that was requested by the city council to go to a 4-quadrant gate. We hit the ground running right on that, had a meeting, met with people and stuff like that. Then it sort of hit a blockage. Okay. And that came up with getting that estimate. They gave us a $25,000 agreement that they'll do the estimate for that $25,000 agreement. And that's where we've been stalled. I've been in conversations with multiple people at the railroad to try to get something moving on that. And there's no movement beyond that, because basically what they do is they outsource that estimate. So they're paying a third party to do their work for them. Okay. So if we want to move forward with this agreement, or move forward with to get an estimate, we have to enter into an agreement with the railroad, which they've provided us at $25,000 for that estimate. Okay. In talking to some of the people that they at the railroad specifically, there is some issues of communications, and that cost could potentially be borne by us. And that's something that would come out in this estimate as to what beyond putting in the 4-quad gate, what are the things that might be that the city may be responsible for. So that's the other hesitant from us, them giving us any type of ballpark except for the one that's on their website. So that's where we are right now. We're somewhat at a standstill with getting that estimate from them, a good detailed estimate. Let's put it that way.
Wallace, you're first anyway. I know you brought this up. You want to go first?
Yeah, well, I'm concerned that we've, 6 months or better has gone by, and we really haven't gotten any traction on anything. It was my expectation when we last met that that Mr. Hessel and Mr. Sears were going to get involved in this to get some level of negotiation as to where we were with this process. And I don't know that either of them have been involved, but I'd like to see them get involved and see if we can't kick this up the food chain a little bit.
All right, any other council questions, comments at this point? I'm seeing none. The reimbursement agreement, and what exactly, that 25,000 reimbursement, what exactly is that again, Bill?
Basically, that's an agreement that we will reimburse the railroad up to $25,000 of cost incurred in doing their investigation to provide the cost estimates for the 4-quadrant gate.
So so we would have to execute that basically, and then we would do the work.
Then they would do the work.
They
And
would do
then-
the work.
And then we would reimburse their cost up to $25,000.
That point, we would only know what the cost of the project might be.
Correct.
I guess these things, I'm kind of surprised. I guess these things aren't sold built by vendors or something and sold, because it seems like you'd go to them and say, how much will it cost you to put one of these devices on our at the intersection, and they would tell us the price. And we have
That's what the railroad would do.
I did that by phone, Bob, last year. I found the biggest distributor of crossing equipment, railroad crossing equipment, asked them how much work they did with UP. They said they did a lot with UP, familiar with all of the equipment that they would authorize and approve. The only thing that had changed in the conversation was that UP was demanding that we subsidize their switching equipment also. And to me, that's where the negotiation needed to be. You know, if that has to happen, what percentage of that should we bear? And so that's why I'm surprised that we've come back with basically not having moved the needle on that end of the conversation. And I'd look to Russ to tell us, is there some roadblock that would prevent us from doing that?
Not that I'm aware of. We can certainly talk with UP about any aspect of this, but they don't want to talk to us until we sign a $25,000 agreement, basically, is what Bill is telling us. They don't want to talk about the cost that would be involved in building this project. They won't give us an estimate. They point us to a website, and the website says it'll be between $300,000 and $500,000.
The process we're following right now is the process we followed with every project and when we deal with the railroads. We're doing this with Geyer Road. We're having a meeting with them at the end of May for the Geyer Road project. Okay, and we had to enter into an agreement with that. That is about $14,000 because it's a smaller scale. This is the process that the staff has to go through.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if there's a possibility that some of us have relationships that might help us in this conversation with the railroad, maybe we should look to exploit those and see what we can do.
And I believe in several of our emails that our area representative has been in carbon copied in on those emails.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess one of the other questions is, I know we talked about it before, is, and Wallace has brought this to our attention, is council in general in favor of, is this an issue in each individual's mind that's worth, pursuing, even if it's 25,000 or just pursuing more staff time as a whole? I think that would be the first question before we go any further. Bob?
I wonder, since Wallace has done a lot of good thinking about this, you wouldn't mind, Wallace, just kind of recapping the benefit of the project so we can analyze whether the price, even the price ranges we're talking about and know about are acceptable.
Yeah, so historically we had, I think, 5 crossings, railroad crossings that we either closed, or actually more than that, we either closed them completely, or in the instance of this one and what's the other one? I guess Holmes. Holmes we didn't have to do anything with.
Oh,
We
wait,
have-
yeah,
we
we
have
put
a-
in a concrete.
Put it in the concrete.
We put
So
the barrier.
Monroe Place was the only street that ran parallel to and then dead ended into Geyer Road, so that there was a restriction of at least half of the traffic flowing through there, because you were unable to go north on or south on Geyer Road if you're westbound on Monroe, and if you were going south on Geyer and wanted to go east, you could not make a left at Monroe, which you had historically been able to do. And so the same thing applies to our police and fire. They're unable to make that, so they have to reroute themselves. Anybody who lives west of town now, you either have to go all the way to Woodbine or to what's the next street over? You'd have to go, you might come back through Rifle Range, but typically everybody would go to Adams in order to go through from Geyer Road if you lived west of Geyer on and you can't utilize Monroe Place. So it was a significant amount of traffic that used to be able to use that roadway, and it seems to me that the cost of course, because it's hard to go backward in time now, but had we done this back at the time, we could have done this significantly less cost. But at this point, I think it's a worthwhile investment for the community and for its safety also.
So the investment right now would be a $25,000, up to $25,000 reimbursement. Is that it, Bill?
Correct.
And if the costs are higher, they eat it, or eat it, they take it.
Yeah, because the agreement only has us up to $25,000 worth of reimbursement.
And what would we get for that reimbursement?
Probably a written report on a cost estimate. And I think the most important thing is any other ancillary things that they might identify that we may be responsible for.
And that would come directly from the railroad, correct?
It would
So
come
it
from
would
the railroad's
it would be accurate and
correct.
no issues. Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I could suggest before we kind of table this thing, we have an opportunity to put a group together and see if we can't get higher up in UP's hierarchy and have a conversation about whether even that cost might get absorbed by the railroad, the 25,000, if we can get that, get them to pass on that.
Yeah,
Because the reality is, if what they told Bill is true, they need to update the crossing gates and the switching equipment themselves anyway. They're going to eat it one way or the other. Why not give us a pass on it and let us see what we can do to negotiate in having some shared cost in replacing that equipment? I mean, that would to me be a real life negotiation.
Yes, that can be done. We can talk about who and how to do that. So, Kara, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just have a question. Would there be any way, because I know we obviously have a map of cars and pedestrian crashes for the past 5 years, and I don't recall anything around that stretch. Do we have anything like just car on car accidents? Maggie, do you know? Because I'm wondering if there might be something or map or data that would tell us if this stretch is dangerous enough,
It's one of my questions too, and I don't recall much of anything happening there, but I'd have to go back and look at it. I can talk to Gary, but not that I recall. It wasn't a standout one.
Yeah, I believe that, I don't know if we still have that crash data from Vision Zero
We do.
in there, but I don't remember. And I think that the median was there, even though it impedes. What it does is it keeps people from backing up on the train tracks to turn left onto Monroe if you're going south to Guyer. But, you know, if there's double gates on either side, then, you know, that should solve that problem while allowing emergency access. But I think it's a good idea to look at the data. Crash data.
Yeah, because I'm not sure that that is a problem, the people backing up onto the railroad tracks. I do not recall that it stood out at all. Washington was really the biggest one that stood out.
Okay.
Or Kirkwood Road in the
At
middle of
Washington, yeah.
Washington. Yeah.
Bob?
Seems to me that that's kind of off track. We aren't really talking about safety of crossing railroad tracks and that sort of thing. So whether this is a standout or not with vehicular accidents doesn't really seem to be addressing the matter. What we're really talking about is, well, let's start at the beginning. What we're really talking about is whether the train has to blow its whistle or not. And we made a decision a long time ago that we don't want it to blow its whistle through town. So they said, well, we'll stop blowing our whistle if you keep people from going around the gates. And then the median prevents people from going around the gates, right? Because they can't change lanes to go around the end of the near gate. So that's why they're there. And if we remove them so that we get access to Monroe, the railroad still says, well, then we'll have to blow our whistle again, right? And if you don't want us to blow our whistle, you have to put a gate down across the entire street on both sides of the tracks so that nobody can go around them. And so it's like in those degree, you know, it's not just, you know, we're either going to have whistles and then have access to Monroe, or we're going to have a median which has its problems because you don't have access to Monroe, or we're going to have these double long gates, which kind of solves all the problems, except now you've added a cost and potentially throwing out 25,000, and we don't end up not getting anything from that.
Right, Bob, and that was kind of my question. In my head, am I willing to approve 25,000+, right? Because we don't know what else is going to fall on our table for convenience. You know, if there's a safety issue, then yes, I think something like that is worth, and that's why I asked. It's not just, you know, 25,000 because people want to take a left down Monroe. So that's why I asked.
Well, it doesn't sound like there's any consensus to go that route, but Wallace, we can have that conversation that you mentioned earlier and see if there's other ways talking to UP. So we'll do that.
Okay.
I got a note on it.
All right. Fair enough.
Very good. All right. Thank you all. Now we need to go into closed session. So is there a motion to go into closed session for legal?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So we need to get out of this Zoom and then get into the other one. So see everybody in a minute.
At only 30 miles per hour without belts, we can see through slow motion that the dummy is thrown against the windshield with deadly force.
You've seen the reminders. There's no excuse. Seatbelts save lives.
When you hear people say something is as easy as riding a bike, they've probably forgotten about starting and stopping. Here are some tips to help you safely on your way. To start riding, straddle the bike without sitting on the seat. If you can't do this comfortably and are sitting on the frame, the bike is probably too big for you. Choose whichever pedal is most comfortable for you to start with and move it into an upright position. In one smooth motion, push the pedal down, ease yourself back onto your seat, and put your other foot on the other pedal. Don't be worried if it's a bit of a struggle to find the other pedal at first. Just remember, practice helps. Next up, stopping. You want to try and stop when one foot is at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Stop pedaling and shift your weight so it's more on that pedal than on the seat. Then squeeze both of the brake levers equally. Don't grab the brakes too hard. You want to come to a gradual stop. Once you have stopped, slide forward off the seat and put one foot on the ground. Make sure your brakes are stopping you, not your feet. If you are riding in traffic, it's a good idea to get in the habit of setting the pedal in the upright position right after you stop. That way, you're always ready to go again when the light changes or traffic starts moving again. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. A bike lane is a striped and signed lane that provides a dedicated space on the road for bicyclists. They are just the same as any other travel lane. They just happen to be for bicycles, so follow the same rules of the road. If the lane is next to parked cars, be sure you ride far enough over to stay clear of an opening car door. In some intersections, you may notice the bike lane changes from a solid to dotted or dashed line. This means that vehicles are allowed to enter this portion of the bike lane to make a turn. They should yield to you before they enter the bike lane. Keep in mind that some motorists may make a right turn without crossing into the bike lane. Keep an eye out for drivers on your left when approaching the intersection. Even if your community has a law that says you have to ride in a bike lane, there are always exceptions. When you are making a left turn, passing another bicyclist, or going around hazards in the road, you will need to leave the bike lane. As with any other lane changes, be sure to first scan, signal, and yield. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. In all 50 states, bicyclists are required to follow the same laws as other drivers. There are a few key principles that underpin all U.S. traffic laws. You, along with everyone on the road, are entitled to the space you are using. This includes the space behind, to each side, and the space in front. If you want to use someone else's space, you must yield to whomever is using it. Never ride against traffic. This puts you in a position where drivers don't expect you to be. Ride with the flow of traffic. When you come to an intersection, if you don't have the right-of-way, you must yield. Before changing lanes, look behind you and ensure no traffic is coming. The slowest vehicles on the road should be the furthest to the right. Where you position yourself on the road should depend on the location of any parked cars, your speed, and your destination. Always pass on the left. Bikes can share the same lane with other drivers. When this is possible, bikes must ride far enough to the right to share the lane. This does not mean riding in the gutter. The gutter is not a safe place to ride. When sharing isn't safe, ride in the middle of the lane. When there is a lane that is used for more than one direction, use the rightmost lane, going in the direction you are going. Don't get trapped to the right of right-turning traffic when you are going straight ahead. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Most crashes happen at intersections. You can prevent crashes by being visible, positioning yourself clearly on the road, and making eye contact with other drivers. When you are riding beside a bus, truck, or other large vehicle, be sure to position yourself where you are visible and out of the driver's blind spot. Keep in mind that you will need extra distance between you and a larger vehicle in order to be seen. When you are coming up to a multi-lane intersection, you will want to be in the rightmost lane that is traveling in the direction you are going. Where you are within the lane depends on the intersection. If you are traveling straight through this intersection, you will be in the middle of the rightmost through lane. If you are to the right of the lane, someone may try to make a right turn in front of you. If you are turning right at this intersection, be in the middle portion of the right lane. Make eye contact with the drivers, signal, and turn. Placing yourself to the right might allow a car to come up next to you and crowd your right turn. If you are turning left at this intersection, you are in the middle portion of the left lane. Placing yourself to the left may allow someone to come next to you and crowd your left turn. This is one example that will help you as you travel through many types of intersections. It's important to remember that you can always get off your bike and turn into a pedestrian to cross an intersection. Tip: if you need to cross over railroad tracks, be sure to do so at a 90-degree angle to prevent puncturing your tire. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Changing lanes in traffic can be challenging. Here's a safe and easy way to change lanes with confidence. Plan ahead. Anticipate where you're going to need to be on the road. Look behind you, possibly several times. Signal where you are going. Act carefully, smoothly, and deliberately. You may have to wait for other drivers or change lanes gradually. When you are riding by a bus, truck, or large vehicle, be sure to position yourself where you are visible and out of the driver's blind spot. Keep in mind that you will need extra distance between you and a larger vehicle in order to be seen. Changing lanes, like all of bicycling, becomes easier with practice. Change lanes in an empty parking lot, moving between painted lines until you are comfortable enough to do it in traffic. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone.
At only 30 miles per hour without belts, we can see through slow motion that the dummy is thrown against the windshield with deadly force.
You've seen the reminders. There's no excuse. Seatbelts save lives.
When you hear people say something is as easy as riding a bike, they've probably forgotten about starting and stopping. Here are some tips to help you safely on your way. To start riding, straddle the bike without sitting on the seat. If you can't do this comfortably and are sitting on the frame, the bike is probably too big for you. Choose whichever pedal is most comfortable for you to start with and move it into an upright position. In one smooth motion, push the pedal down, ease yourself back onto your seat, and put your other foot on the other pedal. Don't be worried if it's a bit of a struggle to find the other pedal at first. Just remember, practice helps. Next up, stopping. You want to try and stop when one foot is at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Stop pedaling and shift your weight so it's more on that pedal than on the seat. Then squeeze both of the brake levers equally. Don't grab the brakes too hard. You want to come to a gradual stop. Once you have stopped, slide forward off the seat and put one foot on the ground. Make sure your brakes are stopping you, not your feet. If you are riding in traffic, it's a good idea to get in the habit of setting the pedal in the upright position right after you stop. That way, you're always ready to go again when the light changes or traffic starts moving again. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. A bike lane is a striped and signed lane that provides a dedicated space on the road for bicyclists. They are just the same as any other travel lane. They just happen to be for bicycles, so follow the same rules of the road. If the lane is next to parked cars, be sure you ride far enough over to stay clear of an opening car door. In some intersections, you may notice the bike lane changes from a solid to dotted or dashed line. This means that vehicles are allowed to enter this portion of the bike lane to make a turn. They should yield to you before they enter the bike lane. Keep in mind that some motorists may make a right turn without crossing into the bike lane. Keep an eye out for drivers on your left when approaching the intersection. Even if your community has a law that says you have to ride in a bike lane, there are always exceptions. When you are making a left turn, passing another bicyclist, or going around hazards in the road, you will need to leave the bike lane. As with any other lane changes, be sure to first scan, signal, and yield. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. In all 50 states, bicyclists are required to follow the same laws as other drivers. There are a few key principles that underpin all U.S. traffic laws. You, along with everyone on the road, are entitled to the space you are using. This includes the space behind, to each side, and the space in front. If you want to use someone else's space, you must yield to whomever is using it. Never ride against traffic. This puts you in a position where drivers don't expect you to be. Ride with the flow of traffic. When you come to an intersection, if you don't have the right-of-way, you must yield. Before changing lanes, look behind you and ensure no traffic is coming. The slowest vehicles on the road should be the furthest to the right. Where you position yourself on the road should depend on the location of any parked cars, your speed, and your destination. Always pass on the left. Bikes can share the same lane with other drivers. When this is possible, bikes must ride far enough to the right to share the lane. This does not mean riding in the gutter. The gutter is not a safe place to ride. When sharing isn't safe, ride in the middle of the lane. When there is a lane that is used for more than one direction, use the rightmost lane, going in the direction you are going. Don't get trapped to the right of right-turning traffic when you are going straight ahead. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Most crashes happen at intersections. You can prevent crashes by being visible, positioning yourself clearly on the road, and making eye contact with other drivers. When you are riding beside a bus, truck, or other large vehicle, be sure to position yourself where you are visible and out of the driver's blind spot. Keep in mind that you will need extra distance between you and a larger vehicle in order to be seen. When you are coming up to a multi-lane intersection, you will want to be in the rightmost lane that is traveling in the direction you are going. Where you are within the lane depends on the intersection. If you are traveling straight through this intersection, you will be in the middle of the rightmost through lane. If you are to the right of the lane, someone may try to make a right turn in front of you. If you are turning right at this intersection, be in the middle portion of the right lane. Make eye contact with the drivers, signal, and turn. Placing yourself to the right might allow a car to come up next to you and crowd your right turn. If you are turning left at this intersection, you are in the middle portion of the left lane. Placing yourself to the left may allow someone to come next to you and crowd your left turn. This is one example that will help you as you travel through many types of intersections. It's important to remember that you can always get off your bike and turn into a pedestrian to cross an intersection. Tip: if you need to cross over railroad tracks, be sure to do so at a 90-degree angle to prevent puncturing your tire. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Changing lanes in traffic can be challenging. Here's a safe and easy way to change lanes with confidence. Plan ahead. Anticipate where you are going to need to be on the road. Look behind you, possibly several times. Signal where you are going. Act carefully, smoothly, and deliberately. You may have to wait for other drivers or change lanes gradually. When you are riding by a bus, truck, or large vehicle, be sure to position yourself where you are visible and out of the driver's blind spot. Keep in mind that you will need extra distance between you and a larger vehicle in order to be seen. Changing lanes, like all of bicycling, becomes easier with practice. Change lanes in an empty parking lot, moving between painted lines until you are comfortable enough to do it in traffic. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone.
At only 30 miles per hour without belts, we can see through slow motion that the dummy is thrown against the windshield with deadly force.
You've seen the reminders. There's no excuse. Seatbelts save lives.
When you hear people say something is as easy as riding a bike, they've probably forgotten about starting and stopping. Here are some tips to help you safely on your way. To start riding, straddle the bike without sitting on the seat. If you can't do this comfortably and are sitting on the frame, the bike is probably too big for you. Choose whichever pedal is most comfortable for you to start with and move it into an upright position. In one smooth motion, push the pedal down, ease yourself back onto your seat, and put your other foot on the other pedal. Don't be worried if it's a bit of a struggle to find the other pedal at first. Just remember, practice helps. Next up, stopping. You want to try and stop when one foot is at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Stop pedaling and shift your weight so it's more on that pedal than on the seat. Then squeeze both of the brake levers equally. Don't grab the brakes too hard. You want to come to a gradual stop. Once you have stopped, slide forward off the seat and put one foot on the ground. Make sure your brakes are stopping you, not your feet. If you are riding in traffic, it's a good idea to get in the habit of setting the pedal in the upright position right after you stop. That way, you're always ready to go again when the light changes or traffic starts moving again. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. A bike lane is a striped and signed lane that provides a dedicated space on the road for bicyclists. They are just the same as any other travel lane. They just happen to be for bicycles, so follow the same rules of the road. If the lane is next to parked cars, be sure you ride far enough over to stay clear of an opening car door. In some intersections, you may notice the bike lane changes from a solid to dotted or dashed line. This means that vehicles are allowed to enter this portion of the bike lane to make a turn. They should yield to you before they enter the bike lane. Keep in mind that some motorists may make a right turn without crossing into the bike lane. Keep an eye out for drivers on your left when approaching the intersection. Even if your community has a law that says you have to ride in a bike lane, there are always exceptions. When you are making a left turn, passing another bicyclist, or going around hazards in the road, you will need to leave the bike lane. As with any other lane changes, be sure to first scan, signal, and yield. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. In all 50 states, bicyclists are required to follow the same laws as other drivers. There are a few key principles that underpin all U.S. traffic laws. You, along with everyone on the road, are entitled to the space you are using. This includes the space behind, to each side, and the space in front. If you want to use someone else's space, you must yield to whomever is using it. Never ride against traffic. This puts you in a position where drivers don't expect you to be. Ride with the flow of traffic. When you come to an intersection, if you don't have the right-of-way, you must yield. Before changing lanes, look behind you and ensure no traffic is coming. The slowest vehicles on the road should be the furthest to the right. Where you position yourself on the road should depend on the location of any parked cars, your speed, and your destination. Always pass on the left. Bikes can share the same lane with other drivers. When this is possible, bikes must ride far enough to the right to share the lane. This does not mean riding in the gutter. The gutter is not a safe place to ride. When sharing isn't safe, ride in the middle of the lane. When there is a lane that is used for more than one direction, use the rightmost lane, going in the direction you are going. Don't get trapped to the right of right-turning traffic when you are going straight ahead. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Most crashes happen at intersections. You can prevent crashes by being visible, positioning yourself clearly on the road, and making eye contact with other drivers. When you are riding beside a bus, truck, or other large vehicle, be sure to position yourself where you are visible and out of the driver's blind spot. Keep in mind that you will need extra distance between you and a larger vehicle in order to be seen. When you are coming up to a multi-lane intersection, you will want to be in the rightmost lane that is traveling in the direction you are going. Where you are within the lane depends on the intersection. If you are traveling straight through this intersection, you will be in the middle of the rightmost through lane. If you are to the right of the lane, someone may try to make a right turn in front of you. If you are turning right at this intersection, be in the middle portion of the right lane. Make eye contact with the drivers, signal, and turn. Placing yourself to the right might allow a car to come up next to you and crowd your right turn. If you are turning left at this intersection, you are in the middle portion of the left lane. Placing yourself to the left may allow someone to come next to you and crowd your left turn. This is one example that will help you as you travel through many types of intersections. It's important to remember that you can always get off your bike and turn into a pedestrian to cross an intersection. Tip: if you need to cross over railroad tracks, be sure to do so at a 90-degree angle to prevent puncturing your tire. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Changing lanes in traffic can be challenging. Here's a safe and easy way to change lanes with confidence. Plan ahead. Anticipate where you're going to need to be on the road. Look behind you, possibly several times. Signal where you are going. Act carefully, smoothly, and deliberately. You may have to wait for other drivers or change lanes gradually. When you are riding by a bus, truck, or large vehicle, be sure to position yourself where you are visible and out of the driver's blind spot. Keep in mind that you will need extra distance between you and a larger vehicle in order to be seen. Changing lanes, like all of bicycling, becomes easier with practice. Change lanes in an empty parking lot, moving between painted lines until you are comfortable enough to do it in traffic. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone.
At only 30 miles per hour without belts, we can see through slow motion that the dummy is thrown against the windshield with deadly force.
You've seen the reminders. There's no excuse. Seatbelts save lives.
call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Wertz,
Here.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Here.
Councilmember Sears,
Here.
Councilmember Dewey,
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Here.
Thank you. City Attorney John Hessel, would you please enter into the minutes on the record about meeting remotely, please?
I will, Mayor. As the notice of this meeting reflects, Section 610.015 of the Missouri Sunshine Law provides that members of the City Council are not physically present in council chambers can participate and vote on all matters when an emergency exists, and the nature of the emergency is stated in the minutes. So once again, we'd ask that the minutes reflect the City Council is meeting remotely because of the COVID-19 pandemic that continues to exist. They're meeting for their own safety as well as the safety of the general public.
Thank you, John. Tonight, we will go straight to public comments.
The public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the City Council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the City Council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the City Council to the Chief Administrative Officer or City Clerk if action is needed. If there's anybody wishing to make a public comment, if you would please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
There are two hands raised.
Okay.
The first is Michael Jerlicki.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Michael?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Griffin and council members. My name is Michael Jerlicki. I live on Dixon Street in Kirkwood, a few blocks south of Manchester Road. So one would consider in close proximity to the area proposed for the special use permit for a liquor store at 10451 Manchester Road. I also apologize for missing last month's public hearing and will limit my comments to 3 minutes.
Michael, can I stop you? We're having trouble hearing you.
Let's see, is that better?
That's much better.
Great. Okay, sorry about that.
No, no problem.
If I may, I'll start over.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Griffin and council members. My name is Michael Jerlicki. I live on Dixon Street in Kirkwood, a few blocks south of Manchester Road. So one would consider in close proximity to the area proposed for the special use permit for a liquor store at 10451 Manchester Road. I also apologize for missing last month's public hearing and will limit my comments to 3 minutes. In addition to Kelly having me as her husband and our 3 children being residents of Kirkwood, I'm also the vice president and general manager of Hollywood Hotel and Casino, a Penn National Gaming property located in Maryland Heights. I'm speaking today not in favor nor opposed to that location being a liquor store. However, I am concerned it has been seen throughout the state for the potential of the presence of illegal gambling devices at convenience stores or liquor stores and issues that could bring not only to Kirkwood, but specifically to my neighborhood. As a key licensed gaming industry veteran with over 30 plus years of casino industry experience in multiple jurisdictions throughout the country, I am familiar with the problems these types of illegal gambling devices can cause, as well as some of the untold social costs. Liquor stores or convenience stores that have gambling devices or video lottery terminals or gray machines, as some of you may be familiar with those terms, or the discussion and press coverage that has recently been taking place in the latest legislative session in Jefferson City, operate in violation of multiple Missouri state statutes pertaining to gambling, promoting gambling, possession of a gambling device, and a few more that basically prohibit or mention penalties for wagering or accepting a wager. In addition to violating state gambling laws, these illegal devices and businesses that possess them are bad for the community and potentially dangerous for the residents of Kirkwood. Illegal gambling revenue is not subject to gaming taxes, resulting in less funding for educational programs. Businesses do not implement responsible gaming initiatives. The cash is not monitored or reported to the U.S. Department of Treasury or local law enforcement as needed to prevent money laundering. And basically, these machines are unregulated, meaning the players may not have a fair chance to win. In the last 6 months, there have been multiple local prosecutors in Platte, Jefferson, Andrew, Lynn, Jasper, and other counties that have began to file litigation against these manufacturers and operators, or have successfully won cash fine judgments and sentence impositions on those illegal operators, including felonies, multiple year probation, and suspended jail time sentences. In last month's presentation by Ms. Lowry, there was no mention of any type of gambling devices being present or in the plans being submitted for approval. Therefore, should a special use permit subject to certain conditions be granted for this liquor store, I would ask that the owner or operator agrees to adhering to state law for granting of the business license, and not install any type of gambling device, regardless of definition or the vagaries that could be associated with the terms gambling device. As well as this body agrees to uphold state statutes and Kirkwood Ordinance Article 2, occupation of licenses generally 13-54, revocation of a license A number 7 that reads, any violation by the licensee of any ordinances of the city of Kirkwood or the state of Missouri should illegal gambling devices ever to be present. Thank you for the time and consideration.
Thank you, Michael. Freddie, you said we had another hand up?
There was another hand raised, but they don't seem to be in attendance anymore.
Okay, all right. Thank you. We will move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments on it? Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes, it's just a general comment. Had a resident talk to me about the city's vehicle fleet, questioning how much money we spend on it, and it may be something we want to consider looking at. Spending on our fleet, and maybe taking a look at how much we spend, and do we need to continue to purchase newer vehicles versus another option. So it's just something to think about. I think it was a observation worthy of discussion, maybe in the future for us to look at.
Thank you, Mark. Anything else on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion passes. Go to unfinished business, Bill 10876.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance amending the provisions of the Municipal Code, Chapter 25, Zoning and Subdivision, regarding revisions to the permitted use category for multiple family dwellings in the B2 General Business District, and revising the Downtown Master Plan and Parking Studies Framework Plan accordingly.
Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Bill passes. Bill 10877.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance appropriating $7,642 from the Equitable Sharing Fund balance to the machinery and equipment account for the police department.
Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Bill passes. We'll move on to new business, Bill 10878.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance amending the Kirkwood Code of Ordinances, Chapter 17, Article 5, Offenses Concerning Public Peace, Section 17-70, Conduct constituting disturbing noises, subsection J.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments on the bill? Councilmember Ward, I'm going order. Do you have anything on this?
Well, yes, I do. I think it doesn't go far enough. I think we had very little, if any, fact finding on this. It's largely an uninformed ordinance, and I think that's a poor way to do government. I think the council should have as much information as possible in front of it when it makes a decision, and make a decision that can affect positively as many residents as possible. I think this falls far short of that. I think that construction as it stands affects people 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I had Mr. Raish give me a compilation of construction as it's clustered in the city of Kirkwood, Maryland. I don't know if you authorized Fred to post that.
Yeah.
Would you like me to bring that up, Mayor?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, one moment. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So if you take a look at that, and I don't know if you can see the legend, you might have to scroll it up a little bit, Laurie, for them to be able to see the legend. But if you'll notice the green ones, those are that's new home construction. And you'll notice that that's clustered where it's happening. It's largely clustered. And what that implies is that folks in those neighborhoods and on those blocks can be looking at multiples of years of construction. And so when we, kind of offhandedly say, well, I just want to get it done and get it done as quickly as possible, those folks are looking at 6:37 a.m. traffic and noise year after year after year. I've asked that we amend this ordinance so that it reflects a change in the seasonal start times for construction. 7 a.m. during the warm months, 8 a.m. during the cooler and winter months would give some relief to those homeowners. And so I would ask that the sponsor consider that amendment to this motion and to this ordinance so that we can help a greater number of people.
All right, Laurie, you can take that. You can take that down. We can get. Does anybody have any comments on that? Here's my thought on that, Wallace. I think the whole purpose of this coming to us was just a simple matter of, weekend evenings. I think looking at the bigger picture of weekday construction times requires more. Requires more investigation on our part. So I think what we're doing here is being very specific about just, weekend evenings. I think I said it last time. If there's discussion about going, further week times and all that, we probably just need to have more discussion on that. But for me, that doesn't prevent, me from, like we did, discussed, doing something on weekend evenings. That's just my feeling. So.
Yeah, well, and along that same line, we didn't get any input from homeowners in the community, which there are some 10,000 of them, or just under 10,000 homeowners or property owners in town here. And we didn't have any opportunity for them to really weigh in on this, and this is going to impact them, especially those who work during the weekend. Weekends are the times when they have an opportunity to do work on their homes that might create some level of noise.
No, I think in terms of what we're talking about, I think that's a valid. That's a valid part. I meant just the bigger picture of changing seasonal times. That's what I meant by that. Changing starting times and all that. We just need to have a bigger discussion on that. So, let's see. Let me go in order. Kara, do you have any comments?
No, well, I do support Wallace's thought that I think we do maybe need to look at some other things to help support our residents who might be impacted by new construction on a year-over-year basis. I just, Wallace also then mentioned that, there are some of us that can only work to repair our homes or make small little construction things, past 5 p.m. or before 7 a.m., because the rest of the time we're working or dropping our kids off at school or whatnot. So, I think this is just a small step in the right direction. And I think, to Wallace's point, we might, as a council, want to look at other ways we can help support our residents in that area.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Well, I just want to qualify, especially with the sponsor, that this is construction noise only.
It says repair work.
or construction and repair work.
Yeah, I think everyone, I know it's not lawn mowing, or landscaping, which that starts pretty early as well. But I think it's clear that this is, construction and repair work. So.
Okay. And I agree, with Councilmember Ward that we should look at deeper into this, especially showing the number of housing stock that's been changing over and year over year. But I did have an amendment, two amendments that I wanted to offer for tonight on this. And that is to change some of the timing that's in here. The first amendment that I'd like to offer would be on Saturdays times and making those 7 to 5. The other one, and I'll offer that later, are the Sunday times and making that 9 to 5. But the first amendment I'd like to offer is making Saturdays 7 to 5.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments on that? Councilmember Dewey.
I don't know which I'm supposed to do. I have a comment. I think 7 in the morning on Saturday morning is too early. So I think but I'm not sure if I need to do another amendment later or we're having a discussion about this. I think 9 would be better for Saturday morning. 7 in the morning is too early.
Well, I think we do maybe one at a time. It might.
Okay.
Be, unless the proposer of the amendment wishes to change her motion. And you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, I guess if I change it, we can vote on it, but another one can be offered, right?
Maybe we stick one. I think we stick one at a time. I think.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to do it. So.
Agree.
Okay.
Yeah. What that does is 7 a.m. is what's starting now, and we had already, when we had our work session, right now it's 7 to 8. Is that correct?
No, it's 7 to 6 on
No, I meant
Saturday.
right now under the current.
Oh, yes.
Saturday 7 to 8 p.m. Correct?
Correct. On Saturdays, yes. And I'm proposing changing it to 7 to 5.
Okay. All right. Again, just to give a little more comfort and relief on a Saturday evening to people as they are outside. We have any comments on that? Basically going from 8 to 5 is what we're doing on Saturday evenings. Councilmember Sears.
Yeah, I think if I understood Councilmember Wertz's issue from what she said last time and tonight, she's asking us, I think, to recognize that some of these construction or repair projects, not just mowing the lawn and things like that, but are done by the homeowner and can only be done later in the evenings or on weekends during an extended day. That's what I heard. And even if it's not what she intended, that's how I feel about it. I mean,
that's correct.
I know a lot of neighbors who, and I sometimes have a, garage door to repair or something, and I could be out there with a hammer, but I'm stuck because of my work. I'm stuck to certain hours. And we were told by Mr. Hessel, I think last time when I asked the question, that we can't differentiate between whether it's a homeowner doing the work or a professional home builder that's doing the work. So be mindful, and it's a problem for me, that what restrictions we put on it are also putting restrictions on homeowners who are just trying to get that chore done.
Yeah, I mean, in going on Saturday and Sunday evenings, you know, that's, you know, most of the contractors are not working, you know, on Friday nights or Saturday nights or Sunday nights. This is basically, this would be homeowners who probably, they'd be mainly restricted by it. Okay.
That's right.
So there is a motion on the floor to amend the ordinance on Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Any more discussion on that? All right, seeing none. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
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 Let's do hands. Let's do hands. Okay, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
The 7 a.m. to 5?
7 to 5.
7 to 5, yeah. All right, I see 3 hands in favor. All opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, so I see 4. The motion fails. So that remains 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Laurie, did you get the vote? Okay. All right. Now you have a second motion, correct, to make?
Yes, for Sunday, making Sunday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions or comments? Right now, Sunday is 9 to, what's our current ordinance? Someone remember? I'd have to look it up.
8.
9 to 8. So this
Yep.
would take Sundays, leave it at 9 a.m., but change the end time to 5 p.m. So do we have any questions or comments on that, on the motion? Councilmember Sears.
Just related to my same comment before, but this one even further excludes or further impacts or burdens property owners from doing the things that they need to accomplish during the weekend. So this one particularly impacts them, because I don't know of very many Sunday night contractors. Of course, I'm coming from an experience where I couldn't get a worker in my house for weeks at a time. But I get it. But yeah, so I just want to point out that it affects homeowners to a greater degree than any other restriction we have in there.
It does. I think there's some, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I mean, most people, again, don't quote me. I mean, even homeowners are not out on Sunday nights doing their work. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. So this again is just to maybe give some peace and tranquility when people are having, outside events. So,
Sure.
Any other comments on the Sunday amendment to 9 to 5? All right, seeing none, we'll do our hands. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your right hand, or either hand. I count 1, 2, all right, 3 in favor. All opposed? All right, we've got 4 opposed. You have the count, Laurie? Okay, so that amendment fails as well. Okay, do we have anything else on this bill? Councilmember Dewey, I know you wanted to have something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would like to change Saturday to 9 a.m. So the 9 to, what is it now, 6?
Yeah, is that what, so your motion is Saturdays 9 to 6? Okay.
Yes, please.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Do we have questions or comments on the motion? And, I will say, Councilmember Zimmer.
Oh, I think on all this, I think our intentions are good, but I'm afraid there may be unintended consequences for some of these changes because, we haven't had the input. I don't know. I like looking at this, especially on the weekends. 9 o'clock on Saturday might be a little too late, especially in the warmer weather months. That's my only hesitation.
And that would be mine too. So I would not support moving from 7 a.m. We have any other comments from council on the motion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion changing Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand.
Fair enough.
Did you get that, Laurie? Okay. All right. Do we have any other? Oh, Councilmember Dewey, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I have one more. I thought that we had considered and even clarified, and perhaps I've been wrong before, that this not only included construction, but also lawn equipment, lawnmowers, whips and weed whips and that sort of thing, or lawn blowers, leaf blowers.
That is not my understanding. Jonathan, can you weigh in on that, please?
I think that's
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll put a caveat on this. My office doesn't enforce this either.
Oh,
It's
no, I'm sorry.
the police department code enforcement, but the language, I do have the language up if it helps. I mean, it is specific to construction and repair work, the exterior construction, demolition, alteration, or repair of buildings involving the operation of machinery or equipment which causes loud or disturbing noises. So.
Okay, so it would not, my understanding was it would not include lawn mowing and things like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. My mistake.
Yeah. And I think, and maybe John Hessel can say if I'm wrong, even this doesn't prevent people from working. I mean, at different hours, it's just the noise factor. Is that correct, John?
That is correct, Mayor. That's exactly right. This is the noise, and that's what Councilmember Sears was alluding to.
Right.
Doesn't matter who's causing the noise. This is the regulation of noise.
Yeah, but it
And I
doesn't
think
prevent
Councilmember Dewey is pointing out that there are other things that can cause similarly aggravating or disturbing noises, but that's not here. That's, the council would have to address that either by amending this significantly or having a different provision dealing with, as Maggie said, lawn equipment.
Right. But again, it doesn't prevent somebody from working. They just can't.
That's correct.
It's the noise factor. Someone could be putting in a gazebo in their backyard and pouring concrete and making no noise, and they're allowed to do that. But this is the noise factor. Okay, it's not. We're not keeping people from working those hours. You just can't make the noise. So,
Are loud fish tanks included?
they should be excluded. You know, and they should be excluded everywhere. All right. Councilmember Dewey, do you have anything else on that?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we had a couple amendments that were not passed, so the bill remains as is. Do we have any other comments or questions on Bill 10878? All right. Seeing none, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say no.
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 All right, so let's do hands again. Again, it's just so hard to do. All right, all in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. All opposed, raise your hands, please. Okay. All right, so bill passes first reading. All right, Bill 10879.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance granting a special use permit for a liquor store at 10451 Manchester Road, subject to certain conditions.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask Mr. Hessel to speak. There has been a development on this bill, and it is my understanding today that Randall's withdrew their application. But there's more to that. So John, I'll let you take it from there.
Thanks, Mayor. And we may call upon Jonathan that as well. Jonathan was notified by Randall's that they are withdrawing their application. Now, keep in mind that the application also includes the property owner, Easy Storage, and Jonathan and I have both had conversations, and I see that Mr. Rob Clark, is in attendance this evening. He has assured me that that Easy Storage wants to move forward, even though it will not be Randall's, but it will be a high-end type of establishment that would be going in. And I only mention that, again, to remind the city council that when you grant these special use permits, it's to the property and it's not dependent upon who the operator is. So if Randall's went forward and a month from now, they decided that they did not want to go forward, then someone else would be able to step in under the same types of operations. Now, I note, as we typically do in the first whereas clause, we've identified that Todd Randall, on behalf of Randall's Wine and Spirits, made application. Okay, that's a fair and accurate statement. And it's my understanding that the property owner now wants to be a co-applicant. And we always include the property owner as at the application stage, even though they're not technically an applicant, but it's my understanding they want to join as an applicant. And I don't know if Mr. Clark is in a position to identify who the new tenant would be. I'll leave that up to him. They have certainly requested that the city council move forward with this. And if you can't identify this evening between the first reading and the second reading, they would do so. At least that's my understanding. So I think that fairly and accurately summarizes where we are. I saw Mr. Randall in the audience earlier, but I don't see him any longer. Jonathan, have I correctly encapsulated everything?
Yeah, I believe so. And they did, the property owners did provide, well, their legal representative, Mr. Clark, did provide in writing their intention to become a co-applicant on the application. We received that today, just about the same time we received in writing, maybe a little bit before actually received in writing the request to withdraw by the Randalls. So all very fresh and new happenings.
Right, and let me just add, counsel, this is not something that it's unusual, but it's certainly not something that's unheard of. This is typical between a landlord and tenant, where you have a letter of intent, and then there's always this time period where the tenant and landlord are now getting right down to the details, dotting the i's and crossing the t's, and sometimes the negotiations don't lead both parties to where they want to go. So then typical property owner, they move on to, and I hate to characterize Plan B, but the other alternatives that they've always had on the table. So that's really where we are.
And John, just, this is an ordinance, so if we were to move forward, this is just first reading. I mean, we would have 2 weeks, we'd have a second reading. And if we did decide to move forward, we have to amend the ordinance at all to take out the whereas clause. Is there any reference to Randall's, or would that be?
Correct. We would either propose either a substitute bill or draft language for the city council to amend that first whereas clause to identify who the co-applicant, the new co-applicant is, along with the property owner.
Okay. All right. Very good. Council questions or comments? So Wallace, you have anything?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Ward, Councilmember Gibbons, I think you had your hand.
I just want to make sure I understand what a co-applicant is. Is that the property owner and the new person? Okay.
Correct. Yeah, and Liz, that's a great question. We don't normally characterize the property owner as an applicant, but the property owner always has to be on the application because for obvious reasons. And again, this more form over substance. We identify the operator, the tenant, as the applicant, but we've done co-applicants, meaning property owner and the tenant.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
thank you.
I think to answer it to maybe, sorry, they requested to become a co-applicant when Randall's was still on the application. So there was a little, so they were co-applicant with Randall's as of 10:30 this morning. And then at noon, Randall's left the application. So now they are the applicant. And then they fully intend to add another entity to be fill in the gap that Randall's left. So it's all just very fluid and confusing at this point, but.
So your day got a little nuts first thing this morning, didn't it, Jonathan?
A lot of phone tag.
All right, Councilmember Sears, anything?
Yeah, so it sounds like bottom line, the applicant now is the property owner and there's no other applicant, right?
As of this moment, that is correct.
Tonight.
Well, there isn't a co.
That's correct. They are here. And when the last I spoke with, Bill Bowman with Nolan Real Estate or Easy Storage is here in the meeting, and Robert Clark, their legal representative, are here. They did say they're more than happy to give any additional information or answer questions if you all wish them to do so. And yeah, if you wanted to do so, that would be your.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think that's necessary. I'll get to council comments. Anything else, Councilmember Sears?
No, I think it's straightforward and clear, and I'm in favor.
Councilmember Dewey?
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay, no, my recommendation to the council is that we vote on first reading and request a substitute bill for the second reading. And again, that's 2 weeks away, and those things may change there, but I think we should move this, I think we should move it forward and then come back at second reading with the information. So, John, would that be an accurate thing to do? Just go ahead and vote on this and request a substitute bill?
What I would recommend, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of Jonathan and myself and Russ, that's what we're recommending the council do.
Okay, that sounds good. Any more discussion on this bill? All right, seeing none. All in favor of first reading, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. All right, bill passes first reading, and staff will come back with a substitute bill. Thank you very much, John and Jonathan. Bill 10880.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance appropriating $22,245 from equitable sharing fund balance to the machinery and equipment account for the purchase of a Nelson Systems Eventide Nexlog 740 system and a Synology NAS archive drive for the police department.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments on the bill? All right, seeing none, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Bill passes first reading. Resolution 42, 2021.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the proposal of Lockmuller Group in the amount not to exceed of $207,704.85 for engineering services for STP 5502-610 West Essex Reconstruction Project and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second, Laura Giam. Great. Okay, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 44, 2021.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the bid of E. Meyer in the amount of $427,745.61 for 2021 asphaltic concrete overlays and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Questions or comments on the resolution? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 45, 2021.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the bid of NB West in the amount of $539,109.65 for 2021 ultra-thin bonded asphaltic wearing surfaces, and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So
Move
moved.
approval.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Givens,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 48, 2021.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a supplemental agreement number 2 to engineering services contract with EFK Moen LLC, and increasing the contract amount by $99,691.99 for a not to exceed amount of $256,109.19.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Move approval.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Givens,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 49, 2021.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution amending and readopting the city of Kirkwood city fee schedules.
All right, is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, and basically, what this does, it allows, it amends fees for those wanting to purchase a second trash cart. It increases the monthly fee by $15 per month. That's the only fee that would be changing. And if this is passed tonight, Russ or Bill, when would this take effect and when would people be able to get the carts?
I'll let Bill answer that.
Okay.
I think we would probably have to get together with Freddie on this and get it out for advertisement. This isn't widely known,
Right.
but it would be as soon as practical, because we would have to, one of the things we have to do with the finance department is to create a charge code, which that has not been created. They have been notified that's what this was pending. So I would say at least, we're talking at least 2 weeks before we probably would get it out and implement it.
Okay, good. Thank you. And do we have a good supply of carts?
No, we do have carts on hand, but honestly, I don't expect to see a huge amount of influx. We only get 2, maybe 3 calls a month about this.
Okay.
So if we do, then we would have to order additional carts, and we can do that.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from council?
Yeah, I did. It's not pertaining to the trash carts, but I did want to still lodge a complaint about the equalized prime time ice fees that we have for resident, for non-resident pay the same fee. And I think that's unfair to the community members and the taxpayers in the city of Kirkwood.
All right. Seeing no more questions or comments, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. City council reports. I have just one item to report. Like we did last year, there's a Mayors for Meals food drive, and that will take place this Saturday at the train station from 9 a.m. to noon. We'll have a National Guard truck and a couple National Guard members there collecting food. I will be there as well. Now that might hurt, but anyone wishing to come by and drop off food for the St. Louis Area Food Bank, that would be great. Any other council comments, questions? Councilmember Givens.
Well, a couple of things. I wanted to let everybody know of what's happened so far with Amtrak. The Senate changed the language so that it's daily trains, not one daily train. And they also added $1 million, another $1 million. And the MoDOT is saying that Amtrak should be able to have two daily trains with that additional $1 million. It went to conference committee. Conference committee agreed with the Senate version. So now it goes to the two bodies for vote tomorrow. That has to be done by tomorrow. So it's looking really good that we will retain the two daily trains. And Senator Koenig was very helpful. Representative Pfeiffer was very helpful, and Representative Plocker was very helpful.
Thank you. That's good. Update. Very good news. Thank you. Any other Councilmember Ward?
Yeah, I'd like to recognize the teachers nationwide. It's their National Teachers Week. I think it's good always to recognize them. I think we all have one who was memorable. And maybe some have two that were memorable in negative ways too. But it's okay.
And we were memorable students, right, Wallace?
Absolutely, in good ways and bad. I'd also like to let everyone know tomorrow is Give STL Day. Please take a moment to look at local charitable organizations.
Today. It's today, I believe.
Today.
Yeah, okay. And make a donation if you can.
All right, thank you. Anything else from council? Oh, Liz.
Just one other thing regarding Green Tree. You know, they're going forward, but it causes a lot of angst for those community members not to know whether they really can do it or not. And they keep asking me, what can we do? You know, so if you see any of them, just thank them for all the work they're doing.
Yeah.
Whether we have it or not.
It's a tough thing, and work when you do all this, and it may not happen. So yeah. Thank you for saying that, so that we can thank you. Bob.
Yeah, I don't have an individual announcement, but just tied to that one. Who makes that call and who makes that call about whether it goes forward or not?
County.
Russ, you can
gonna say
correct
Sam
me,
Page.
would be, you know.
I mean, we abide by the county health law, and you know, as far as the city is concerned, I think there's consensus that we would like to see it happen. The ones that would have the ability to stop it are really the county.
Okay.
But I think things are pointing in the right direction right now for a number of events, not just Green Tree, but our 4th of July is a good possibility here as well, judging from what we've heard from the county so far. So we may have fireworks. Now it'd be a limited 4th of July with just fireworks, wouldn't have the little bandstand and announcement of council members and things like that. So it would limit the people congregating. But that was one of the things I was going to have in my chief administrative officer's report. We're looking at possibly having the 4th of July this year with a fireworks show.
You mean people would rather just have the introduction of the council instead of fireworks? I mean, that would just generate thousands of people.
Yeah, I think 10,000 people would show up just for that.
Yeah,
but you know, we're going to keep them from congregating, so that's why we're eliminating that portion of it.
Yeah, I'd hate to be responsible for people getting ill.
Always think it right. Okay.
I think we may be getting ill right now.
Right. Well, Russ, why don't you just complete your chief administrative officer report then, or is it done?
Well, that was the bulk of it.
Okay.
I think that generally, I do want to put the bug in council's ear that we are working right now to try to go back to physical meetings, possibly in the month of June. Yeah. It will involve audience participation still via Zoom, but the council would meet physically present in the council chambers as planned right now with video streaming, and going forward, all council meetings would be video streamed, which is something we've discussed previously. So we're working toward that. We've got some audio visual work that still needs to be done in the council chambers to make that feasible and possible. But we are shooting for a time frame of possibly the second meeting of June, going back to physical meetings for council with no physical audience. Audience participation would still be via Zoom, at least until time is determined that it's appropriate for audience members to come in as well.
Thank you, Russ.
Mhm.
City Attorney report.
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
All right, city clerk report.
Yes, Your Honor. I have the report of the May 5th, 2021 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The following action was taken. The commission unanimously recommended approval of amendments to the zoning and subdivision code as recommended by staff's memo dated May 5th, 2021, regarding special use procedures in multifamily in the B2 zoning district. That takes me to the scheduled upcoming public hearings. We will be scheduling this item for a public hearing on June 3rd, 2021. And that is all I have, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. Well, with that, this meeting is concluded. Our next meeting is 7 p.m. On May 20th via Zoom. This meeting is adjourned. Good evening, everyone.